Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the daily live stream here at Rebel News on a Friday, October 11th, 2024. I'm David Menzies, and my co-host, well, let me tell you a little bit about my co-host. Do you know, folks, that today is National Sausage Pizza Day, and my friend absolutely loves sausage pizza. Alas, there was one time in which she did not have the funds to pay for her sausage pizza. The delivery driver demanded to know how he would be compensated. Insert punchline here. Anyway, she is the she-devil with a sword. She is the Khaleesi of Northern Alberta. She is Sheila Gunn Reid. Sheila, how you doing? And I hope we don't have a HR department still here at Rebel News.
No, because your whole story, the premise is untrue, impossible, and a lie, because I live so far out of town. You think I can get a delivery driver out here? Is that what you think? I have to make pizza from scratch around here. Let's tell everybody what we're doing. We got a really packed show. I'm trying not to be annoyed at David. But we've got a really busy show, a lot of things to get to. And I just came out of the Foreign Interference Commission of Bill Blair's full testimony. Bill Blair, the public safety minister, who thought that public safety minister was a work from home job, if you can imagine.
Isn't that amazing?
He just testified he got 3 security briefings during all of COVID because he just didn't go into the office. But sounds like this lazy old man was taken advantage of by his chief of staff, who didn't put a warrant on his desk that affected her former friend, Michael Chan. Allegedly, don't sue me, Michael Chan. So, and Michael Chan is a former Liberal MPP in Ontario who now is the deputy mayor of Mississauga. Does that sound right? Deputy mayor of some godforsaken Ontario place anyway. So anyway, sounds like she delayed the putting a warrant in front of her lazy old man boss who spent all of COVID in slippers at home instead of being in charge of public safety of our nation. She was like, perfect. I just won't show it to him.
Sheila, have you ever seen a Canadian government that has more overstayed its welcome than the Justin Trudeau Liberals? Now, I understand typically in Canadian history, a decade is really the best before date. They'll be into their decade as of next year. But it seems so much longer, doesn't it?
This last little bit especially. Like, this, I don't know, maybe the last 2 months for sure. Just the epic amount of scandals and gaslighting of Canadians and just flat out lying at this point. It just never ends. And now the flood of scandals is just, here's how I would describe it. You're putting a dropper of water behind a dam, and the water fills up, the water fills up, the water fills up. But one day the dam cracks and it all just floods out. That's what's happening in the House of Commons right now between question period and committee. It's just the dam broke. All right, I should tell everybody what we're doing here. Yes. This is the Rebel News Rebel Roundup. It's a twice weekly live stream wherein we talk about the news of the day completely unscripted. Sometimes David Menzies takes advantage of that unscripted nature, as he did off the top of the show. But it allows us to talk about the news as it happens with you. And that is really the most important part of this show. You can have your say and do something a little bit extra. You can support the work that we do here at Rebel News completely out of the goodness of your heart, because you want the little network that could to keep fighting against Justin Trudeau's censorship. So if you're watching us over on YouTube, thank you for that. However, we are completely demonetized over there because YouTube is a censorship platform that capitulates to the government. It's the Ministry of Truth, just in the private sector, working adjacent to the government. So if you want to have your say, support a network that supports you, that's us, support a platform that supports your human right to free speech, that's Rumble. Head on over to Rumble. You can leave us a paid chat. It's called a Rumble Rant. If it's over the $5 US cutoff, I'm hereby obligating myself to read it and then address it on air. But don't let that be the bar for entry, because we love your support in all of its forms, in all of its amounts, and we frequently read the chats that are lower than that on air, but also the chats that are free. So there you have it. Those are the rules. Get chatting to each other and get super chatting with us. Okay, David, take it away.
Yeah, well, yesterday at the Pride of Israel Synagogue, there was a presser by Pierre Poilievre, and the theme was ban the terrorists. Now, I think, Sheila, that almost sounds preposterous, right? Ban the terrorists. Isn't that, like banning toxic waste? But no, with the Justin Trudeau Liberals, the ideologues they are, they have a soft spot in their hearts for terrorism, just like they do for violent criminals. That's how upside down our country is right now. And before we throw to the video, I got to tell you, the way it worked was, and there was a lot of journalists there, a lot of mainstream media, but we were told Mr. Poilievre has time for 5 questions, and that's it. And the first 2 questions went to ethnic media outlets for whatever reason, no problem. And then the rest of us would have to somehow, figure out who's going to ask the remaining questions. Now, well, I didn't record this. Maybe I should have, Sheila, but all the members of the mainstream media, they formed like a football huddle, and they're all like, what do you want to ask him about? Well, I want to ask him about the carbon tax. I want to ask him, it's because they're deciding they were basically pooling their questions. And I'm like, hello, can I join in? But it's kind of like I felt like Rudolph. I couldn't join in on any reindeer games. But can you imagine their chagrin that when the questions began, the first one up was CBC. That was number 3. And then it went to me. And Sheila, if looks could kill, I'm telling you. And I just say this because, it's so refreshing given what we went through during the Scheer and especially the O'Toole campaigns when we were ordered at an outdoor press conference the day before Election Day to actually stand off the lawn of a venue in Markham on a busy street where my camera woman and I could have been hit by a car. That's how inexplicably toxic we were to Erin O'Toole. But I'm telling you, folks, if you want any more of a clear indicator, that is that there is a new sheriff in town, that there is a true conservative in the Conservative Party, it is Pierre Poilievre. Anyways,
and thank a trucker for that.
Yes. Oh, yeah. If anyone ever says, what tangible thing did the trucker convoy do while in Ottawa? Well, got rid of O'Toole.
Yeah, 25-point lead over the Liberals. That's the truckers for you.
Yeah, I mean, that was Christmas in February. Absolutely.
Yeah.
So I think the first video is, I think it's me asking my question,
Yes.
terrorism related, of course, to Mr. Poilievre. So let's roll that video.
Mr. Poilievre, good morning. David Menzies with Rebel News. Given the immigration minister's shocking comments about the lack of security vetting for migrants, should Canada suspend bringing any more refugees from Gaza?
We can't let anyone in unless they have been thoroughly vetted. All of their background, all of their affiliations need to be clearly vetted. Because you're quite right in saying that this government of Justin Trudeau has let in criminals and terrorists. In the case of, think of this case of this apparent ISIS fighter who appears to have been in a video cutting up a human body on a crucifix in the Middle East. He did this, according to this video, before he was granted admission to Canada and then given citizenship in this country. And then finally, we had to arrest him because the French reached out and said they had intelligence that he was about to carry out a massive terrorist attack here in the greater Toronto area. And then there was a second terrorist who got into this country and then ultimately was preparing an attack on Jews from Canada to go to New York, where he was going to kill the Jewish population there. Justin Trudeau has lost control of our borders. His radical ideology, his total incompetence, and his appalling border policies are dangerous to the country. When I am Prime Minister, yes, we will welcome immigrants, but we will do so by vetting security and their lawfulness, and ensuring that the people who come here are safe and that our citizens are likewise safe.
Fantastic. Sheila, your thoughts?
Okay. I mean, that's a completely reasonable statement, and it's actually how the immigration system is supposed to work. And it is kind of a sad state of affairs that just repeating how a fully functioning immigration system is supposed to work is now considered controversial and far right. But that's how the Overton window has completely shifted in Canada. And it is true, you know, like we're going to bring in Gazans who are radicalized in United Nations funded schools that also serve as weapons caches en masse into Canada, and not just Gazans, but Gazan families. Those are the immigration claimants, not the one guy, it's the whole family. They're coming, and we better be ready. And we have to consider how to screen ideology. And I'm not sure that Justin Trudeau's broken immigration system is able to, has the political will, and, you know, I hate to say it, but the manpower, given, and I don't want a ballooning bureaucracy, but given the fact that we're already dealing with an out of control illegal migration crisis, thanks to Justin Trudeau, how do you even focus on this one issue coming right at us?
And Sheila, that is indeed why I asked about Gazans specifically. Let's be frank, not even other Arab nations in the Middle East want these people.
Egypt doesn't, Jordan doesn't. Yeah. And they're ethnically Jordanian. Like, their last names are ethnically Jordanian.
Correct.
Jordan's like, nope, thanks, nope. Egypt is like, how far do we have to put the wall into the ground to stop them from tunneling in.
100%.
It's more secure on the Egyptian border, I think, than the Israeli border. Egypt doesn't want anything to do with them. Jordan is like, you know what, we'll send them help, but we're not taking them in. Says a lot.
And post October 7th, 2023, polls with various results ranging from 75 to 80% show that Gazans still support Hamas. I mean, this is incredible. So even with everything that's happened since that day, Hamas, they're my guys. And you know, Sheila, I was covering what I thought was going to be a vigil at Queen's Park in Toronto on October 7th, 2024. And I thought, you know, it's the 1-year anniversary of the massacre in Israel, the biggest slaughter of Jews post-Holocaust. Do you think, maybe I was hoping against hope, and it turns out I was, but do you think it'd be too much to ask that the pro-Hamas demonstrators, you know, the Hitler Youth Movement 2.0, would put down their flags and placards and not chant genocide in the streets of our great dominion? But no, Sheila, that was indeed too much to ask for. They outnumbered the pro-Israel demonstrators. You can see some of the video footage there. And you know, at one point, Sheila, I'm not trying to be dramatic, I was actually looking south from my perch on University Avenue in College. I was trying to see if I could still get a glimpse of the CN Tower, because I thought, am I in Tehran or Toronto? I mean, the vitriol, the hatred that we saw on display, smoke bombs being set off, no charges there, of course, no. And so you want to bring in Gazans by the thousands to add to this? I think, Sheila, this is what's known as a death wish in terms of our society.
Speaking of chanting in favor of terrorist organizations, we saw out of, I think it was Vancouver. Yes, it was in Vancouver.
Ooh.
Excuse me. The Sami June folks saying, I am Hezbollah, I am Hamas. Those are two outlawed terrorist organizations. Okay, have it your way. You should be outlawed too then. And so Poilievre called for terror groups like Sami June to be banned. So let's hear from him on that.
Thank you very much, Mr. Poilievre, for this important press conference. And actually, we know that Canada is a place for all, not for terrorists and terrorism. What we have seen in the last few years, that some weird demonstrations, I call it chaos, that include people who insult Canada and wish death to our beautiful country. And the most painful thing is to burn my flag, my Canadian flag. This is so painful for all of the Canadians. The people who do this are covering their faces. We don't know their identity. And this is also a big problem, because as a journalist and media, Canadian media from Middle East roots, we receive some threats. My question is, why the police and the authorities do not take actions against this? Because it is not one time, two times, it is repeated over a long time, and there is some violence, there is some threat for many people, and we do not use to have Canada like this. If you, in your position, you are the opposition leader, what you can do to turn Canada now, and if you are the Prime Minister, God willing, what you can do to make our culture is quiet and safe again.
Thank you very much for that question. And I'm so sorry that you have faced these threats. This is another example of our country devolving into chaos. Everything is broken. We have patriotic journalists facing threats of violence from terrorist sympathizers who now operate with impunity after 9 years of Trudeau and the NDP and their radical, divisive, dangerous ideologies. The police need to enforce existing laws and arrest anyone who's making these threats against journalists. We need to lock up violent offenders and keep them behind their bars with jail and not bail, with mandatory jail time for serious violent offenses. We need to ban the terrorist organizations that have been fomenting this hate and these attacks, Samadoun, Houthis, and others. Samadoun was on our streets 2 or 3 days ago, celebrating the genocide, the biggest attack on Jews since the Holocaust, burning our flags, organizing hatred, and making overt calls for violence against our people. Samadoun, the Houthis, and their organizers should be arrested. They should be put behind bars. We should secure our borders to keep terrorists and those who work with them out of our country and keep our country safe again. And we need a prime minister who will unite our people and bind up the wounds of the nation by bringing home the country that we knew and still love.
Brilliant. And
Yeah.
as I understand it, Sheila, not only is Samadoun not banned in Canada, not recognized as a terror entity, but because of their not-for-profit status, they actually get tax breaks. I mean, this is insane. And when you were chanting death to Canada and incinerating the maple leaf, as they did at the Vancouver Public Library on Monday, the anniversary of that, the massacre, I have to be honest, Sheila, I question the validity of multiculturalism. The whole idea of multiculturalism was come into our nation, take advantage of our social programs, get jobs, get housing. Here's the unspoken deal. You're going to obey the law. You're going to be a good citizen. You're not going to import the rubbish that you're running away from across the pond. But when you see that, look at that, the Canadian flag torn in half as a prelude to setting it on fire. Please, somebody convince me that the Liberals' version of state-sanctioned multiculturalism is a good idea.
Well, this comes from the whole idea of cultural relativism, that all cultures are created equal and there isn't a best one. But if you live in the West, you should obviously think that the West is the best. Otherwise, why are you here? And that patriotic, as Pierre Poilievre called him, journalist, is absolutely right. He's doing his best to be a proud Canadian, and he's being attacked for it. And that's the ramifications of all of this. I'm seeing this at the Foreign Interference Commission. We are hearing from Jenny Kwan and other members of the Chinese community, the Chinese dissident community. And I say this because Jenny Kwan is an NDP MP. And they're saying, because the Liberals refuse to deal with this stuff, we're being, our loyalty to Canada is now being questioned out in the street. And I think the same thing is sort of happening, or at least that's the pendulum swing back that might happen because of the Liberals' ineffectiveness on the terror marches in our street, that it sort of swings back towards the freedom-loving Muslim community who get lumped in with the crazy people because the Liberals won't deal with the crazies.
But Sheila, I agree with what you're saying, but the equivalency here when it comes to the two dueling demonstrators, I mean, I listened to, prior to Monday, Toronto Police Service Chief Myron Demke, who I believe, honestly, is the worst police chief in this city's history. And given that Bill Blair used to be the chief, that's saying something, let me tell you, folks. But when he says, we're going to dispatch mobile police stations to certain synagogues, certain areas of the Jewish community, and because they always, and this is my question to you, Sheila, when it comes to police services and the political class, why is there always, and we're going to ramp up our monitoring of the Islamic neighborhoods. We're going to have mobile police stations at certain mosques. I don't see for the past year Jews and their allies going into Muslim areas, going to
Right.
mosques and trying to start a fight. It's
Right.
always 100% the other way.
Sure.
So why do we, every time we condemn anti-Semitism, when I say we, I mean the police and the politicians, why do they have to lump in Islamophobia?
Yeah, well, seeing this at committee right now, what happened the other day, I think we'll get to it later, the anti-Islamophobia DEI minister, as I call her, just getting raked across the coals for by Jamil Javani for basically not doing anything about the actual rise of hate. It's like they call everything that falls out of line with the liberal policy some sort of far right hate, and yet people who are aligned with the Nazis are marching in the streets and protesting on the lawns of Canada's synagogues. They're at the synagogue. They say it's about Israel. Then what the hell are you doing at a Toronto synagogue?
Yeah. So I would say to Chief Demke, all those resources going to Islamic neighborhoods and mosques, that was a fool's errand. You should have deployed those resources where they're actually needed, at synagogues and Jewish neighborhoods. But what do I know? And of course, we're in a realm when you ask impolite questions, even of the IRGC, as I discovered in January, the likes of Fraulein Freeland will have you arrested for crimes against the state. So that's where we are. What a sad state of affairs.
We've got a message from our sponsors. And then we've got to hit an ad break, and then we'll go into the second part of the show. And we've got a couple of chats, which I'll get to right now, maybe before I do the ad read. So we've got one from regular, loyal viewer of the show and valued supporter of our work, Ryerson Gary, $5. Price's Law says that the square root of the workforce does half the work. Yeah, it feels like that. Extrapolating to Justin Trudeau's bureaucracy of 350,000, that means 600 people do half the government's work. That's about right. I think that's about right. It's like an endless drone of bureaucrats at the Foreign Interference Commission. And I'm like, I don't know what all these people do. I have no idea. You've got another one from Aaron Burton, 32, $20. Appreciate that. Thank you so much. Have a great long weekend and a wonderful Thanksgiving with your families. Yes, our American friends, you should know that this is Canadian Thanksgiving right now. P.S. The new website looks awesome. Well, bear with us as we try to work some kinks out, but I think it looks great. It's a lot easier to read, less busy, and I think it's easier to navigate around.
And Sheila, I got to tell you, on the issue of Thanksgiving, I used to think early on, like, how dumb are the Americans choosing the fourth Thursday in November as Thanksgiving? I mean, it's like a day off almost in the middle of the week. Then you go back to work on Friday. And then it dawned on me, virtually nobody goes back to work on Friday. It's actually a 2-day holiday unofficially. So it's actually brilliant to have a Thursday-based holiday if you can manage to get the Friday off. So
yeah, it's a good scam.
Now I'm totally envious that we have to still have ours on the second Monday of October. And by the way, Sheila, I don't know about you, but when I was young, it used to be everybody had Thanksgiving Day on the Monday, and I'd love to hear from our viewers. It now looks like Sunday is the day, and sort of Monday is the recovery day. How is it run at the Sheila Gunn Reid household?
We're doing it on Saturday.
Saturday?
We're doing it on Saturday because everybody's busy. As my nieces and nephews and my kids even now, get older and have their special someone in their lives, they've got to split families, right? So we try to work it out so that everybody can sort of get together and then everybody can disperse into the world depending on what their respective other half family does. So that's what we're doing. However, at the Reid family get-togethers, everybody's in-laws, they're all welcome all the time. Bring them all. So sometimes it's like 30, 40 people at our family get-togethers. But it's just a lot easier on our second generation of Reeds to, let them go and do their thing and work around their other half.
Wow, Saturday. That's unheard
Saturday.
of.
Sometimes it's Sunday, but it's Saturday this year. It's just how it worked out. Okay, so we've got a message from Be Naked. In today's society, it's tough to be a man in a world dominated by overly masculine liberal women. I believe that's true. That's just not how it's meant to be. Everywhere we look, it's gender neutral this product or made for her that product. That's why we started a company that embodies the ethos of men's lives matter too, with products that aren't designed to be gender neutral or used by people with pronouns. Our products at Rumble are designed and built for men by men, period. So if you struggle with low energy, mood swings, or hair loss, or if you need to perform better at the gym or maybe in bed and recover quicker after, throw out all your other garbage supplements and try animal organs. They are traditionally the most nutrient-rich supplements on the planet, but our bison organs are a step above. The grass-fed, non-vaccinated bison are a species where the weak are allowed to die and only the strongest survive. So here is our commitment to you. From men who have real confidence in their products, try this today. If you don't like it, fine, return it for a refund. Go to benaked.com and use the code STUDIO to get 15% off today. So, Olivia, I think we've got some Rebel News ads and we'll get into the rest of the show.
What if governments are trying to reinvent the wheel when the greatest teacher of all times has already laid out the perfect blueprint for a constitution for a kingdom of love, faith, and freedom? Introducing the Kingdom of Heaven Freedom Passport. This special edition Freedom Passport captures the foundational truths of love, ethics, and freedom for all. It's a powerful reminder of Jesus's call to love one another and to be part of something bigger that you can carry with you every day. Join the movement, share the truth, and spread the love with your family and friends. Get your Kingdom of Heaven Freedom Passport at freedompassport.ca. And right now, all orders in North America come with free shipping and a free downloadable song with every purchase.
Why should you join Canada's National Firearms Association? We currently have one of the most aggressively anti-firearm governments in our nation's history, promoting fear and placing blame like never before. Our rights, freedoms, culture, and heritage, it's all on the line. But we are fighting back, and there is strength in numbers. We work within the law to change the law, to defend competitors, hunters, collectors, and other law-abiding firearms owners. We can get through this. We've done it before, and we'll do it again, if you are with us. Canada's National Firearms Association. Freedom, safety, responsibility.
You know, we got to meet the NFA folks at Rebel News Live in Calgary last Saturday. What great people. And I think there's some affiliated organization. You probably know more about this. The Black Hats of Alberta.
Yeah.
Like so
they work to advance gun rights and property rights and lobby politicians. So, and it sounds like they're doing some good work because we just got, or we're getting firearms rights in our Alberta Bill of Rights. So that's what they do.
Fantastic.
Get organized at the local level, other provinces. Okay, let's go into Parliament and committee drama. Like, watching committees is soul sucking and it takes up all your time. However, there are some exciting times. And you start to realize how deeply unserious the Liberals are. And basically, there are some ridings in this country that I figured out that you, as long as you're a Liberal, you can get elected no matter how stupid you are or how out of control of your emotions that you are, how poorly behaved and what a shallow individual you are. And so that I've learned a lot about the voters in Ikra Khalid's riding and about the voters in Nathan Ersin Smith's riding. So what was happening at committee this week? I think it was operations, OGO maybe. So they're examining the Green Slush Fund. And the Green Slush Fund scandal, which is billions of dollars deep, where well-connected insiders and now liberals were giving money to companies that they are associated with. They're treating the Green Slush Fund, which is the STDC, Sustainable Development, whatever nonsense, Canada. They were treating it like their personal piggy bank. They're like, oh, our company needs money. Okay, well, I'm going to declare a conflict of interest, step out of the room, but would you guys all mind voting for giving my company money? Thanks, and I'll do the same for you. And that was happening at this. And now it's touching Stephen Guilbeault, a company that he was a lobbyist for and still holds active shares in, got $200 million from this thing. And so they want to call him to testify, get to the bottom of this. The Liberals at committee are like, why don't we just get back to the business of committee? And the Conservatives are like, this is the business of committee. We want to figure out what's going on here. And it's just, if it's just too much work for you guys, that's fine. We'll take it from here. And so Rick Perkins, Conservative MP, is really hard on this. He's really like, got to get to the bottom of this. We want to call Stephen Guilbeault to answer for this. Nathan Erskine Smith, Liberal MP, that just had Justin Trudeau on his podcast that nobody listens to. He had some less than parliamentary language for Rick Perkins. Let's listen. Oh, this is just language warning. I'm just, oh yeah. Sorry, go ahead.
I thought Mr. Erskine Smith had more integrity than that, than to worry, not be worried about $400
Point of order.
million
Like, what is this
stolen
absolute
from
bullshit?
taxpayers.
This is absolute bullshit.
Whoa.
Come on.
Okay,
Come on,
all right.
Come on. My integrity.
Let's-
you can fuck
okay.
right off.
Okay, all right.
Point is, I thought Mr. Erskine Smith had more
One more
integrity than that, than to worry, not
Point of
be
order.
worried about $400
Point of order. Like, what is this
stolen
absolute
from
bullshit?
taxpayers.
This is absolute
all right.
bullshit.
Whoa.
Come on.
Okay,
Come on,
all right.
Come on. My integrity. You
Let's-
can fuck
okay.
right off.
Okay.
Sheila, you didn't have to give a language warning. He clearly said fuddle duddle. I think Canadians of a certain age will get the reference there.
Yeah,
in terms of
to Trudeau's
Justin's father.
dad. But it got worse because, okay, so he loses his marbles, and frequently at committee, they have to, Urquhart Khalid loses her marbles, and then they have to stop for her to find them and break from committee. Like they adjourn. It's just, it's a wonder they can get anything done. So now, instead of taking a minute to calm down and say like, hey, I can't act like a lunatic at committee. Like if you want to act like that in your own time, you see Rick Perkins in the hallway and you want to put him on blast, I'm sure Rick can handle it. But you don't act like that in committee when the nation's watching. But instead of saying like, oh, you know, like I do regret and withdraw my comments. I disagree with Rick Perkins' assessment of my integrity, but my use of unparliamentary language is uncalled for. I'd like to apologize to the chair. That's usually what they do. But not Nathan Erskine Smith. Next one.
Rick, you impugn someone's integrity. You deserve every language that comes your way. There's nothing more important than a member's integrity, and you have no business impugning mine. Because what are you doing right now? What are you doing right now, Rick? You have brought a privilege motion, an incredibly high bar. And on what basis? Well, before Mr. Baines was even finished his testimony, you brought a privilege motion. We are happy to have him back and to answer clear questions. And look, I'm not even disputing. You can say I didn't like all of his questions. He wasn't as forthcoming as I'd want him to be. You can't say I don't recall isn't an answer. That's what, on the one hand, you said he's not answering my questions. On the other hand, you're saying it's insufficient for him to say I don't recall. Unless you're accusing him of deliberately misleading you and members at the committee, unless that's the accusation, which I haven't heard, but if that's the accusation, then your privilege has not been breached.
That's good. So so he's just completely unapologetic. He doesn't have enough DHA coating his brain for him to think clearly, as Tamara Ugolini reports later on in the show. But yeah, just this is how he is. He's just like, you deserve it all.
You know, Sheila, a little inside baseball for you. Lady Menzoid and I used to live in that very riding, Beaches, East York. I can't recall the last time it was Conservative. It's either Liberal or NDP, such as the wokeness of that area. And it's kind of like Aliens versus Predator, isn't it? No matter which side wins, we lose.
We all
but
lose.
You can see why I headed out of the 416 and into the 905 with that kind of caliber of member of parliament.
Yeah, he's just, this is what it's like at Operations Committee. Serious people trying to get work done and get to the bottom of Liberal scandals, and Liberals just losing their cool and wasting time. All they do is waste time. You'll have a witness, like they had Navdeep Bains, the former minister in charge, who's no longer a minister. He went off to work for Rogers. They'll have him there. They'll get one round of questioning in, so 5 minutes, and then the Liberals, point of order, off the rails, or Khalid's just making stuff up and talking excessively slow, just to drag things out. But that was that committee. We've got another committee. Jamil Javani, pay close attention to him, because his best friend is JD Vance, Donald Trump's running mate. And he is one sharp cookie. Conservatives are very, very lucky to have him in the House of Commons. And he had Justin Trudeau's DEI minister at committee, and he wanted to know about this restorative Black justice thing that the Liberals are going to do. Because once you drill down on restorative Black justice, it's bad. It means emptying out the jails, drugs on the streets, defunding the police, and who better to ask than a Black Conservative MP who grew up in less than the middle class. So let's watch this.
Does the minister support the government's Black justice strategy as part of the anti-racism strategy?
Absolutely.
Thank you. Are you familiar with some of the radical criminal justice policies that your government's Black justice strategy is considering at the moment?
Madam Speaker, I think it's important to recognize that the work that we're leading, working alongside Black communities right across this country, is fundamentally something that we have heard from communities members on the ground of addressing systemic racism within our criminal justice system, which is important that we address. This is the work that my colleague, Minister Virani, is leading. There's nothing that has been, there's no decisions have been made yet around the strategy, but I know we're going to be working alongside community members to make sure that communities.
Is the minister familiar with a document called the Roadmap for Transformative Change that was released this summer?
Madam Speaker, this is a work that my colleague, Minister Virani, is leading. We have very meaningful conversations on how to address systemic racism within our criminal justice system, which we know.
Your colleague, Minister Virani, described this document as, quote, history making for the Black community and, quote, important milestone for the Black community. It seems like something the anti-racism strategy leader may be familiar with, but it sounds like you're not. So just to recap
Point of
a couple
order,
of the...
Madam Chair. It's not appropriate for a committee member. They may ask their questions, but suggesting things that have not been said into the record is inappropriate. And I'd ask that Mr. Giovanni just stick to his thoughts and not try to speak on behalf of the minister. She's more than capable of doing that on her own. Unless he would like to just continue with his questions, then committee can get back to it.
That's not a point of order, Madam Chair. You know, as a Black Canadian, I've been assured that the anti-racism strategy is a whole of government approach. And if my community is told by the Minister of Justice that something is, and I quote, history making an important milestone for Black people, that the leader of the anti-racism strategy would be familiar with it. I think that's a fair question. Nonetheless, some of the policies that are included in this include mass decarceration, reducing the number of incarcerated people by 30% over the next 10 years, decriminalizing a supply of 30 days worth of hard drugs, including cocaine, heroin, and meth, and also defunding police departments by removing 25% of federal grants grants from eligibility to police
30
organizations.
seconds.
So the question I have is, do you support these radical criminal justice policies that your government has published as part of the Black Justice Strategy?
Madam Speaker, I think it would only be a conservative making a joke out of, making a joke out of systemic racism that
This is
we
not a
have
joke.
seen an
You want to flood our communities
over-incarceration
with
of
drugs. I
Black
have a
and
right to
Indigenous
ask you
people
questions
in
about
our
it.
criminal
Order,
justice system.
order.
To be making a joke
Order,
about
please.
that it is disgraceful. But I expect better. I would think I
Mr.
would expect
Giovanni,
better
allow the
from
minister
people.
to answer the question, please.
Okay, I think that's enough. You get the gist of it. The most surprising part of all of that is that Hetty Fry is still alive. Did you know that?
No, I thought she
I'm
was
shocked.
still on some ATV in the hinterland of BC looking for Ku Klux Klan crosses burning, which
Crosses
never
burning
happened.
on the
But
lawn.
she imagined it. But you
Yeah,
know what,
she-
Sheila? I'll tell you this. I want to personally thank Bell Media. Yes, the owners of CTV, the fake news factory that tried to pull a fast one last month in terms of inserting comments into Pierre Poilievre's mouth that he did not make. They got caught red-handed on that. But a couple of years ago, Mr. Giovanni was a on-air host with News Talk 1010, CFRB here in Toronto, and he was terminated because he wouldn't go along with the woke garbage that they were trying to make him say. Isn't that rich, Sheila? Here's mighty multi-billion-dollar Bell Media and owned by BCE, which is increasingly more of a multi-billion-dollar company since it sold its share to Rogers for MLSE. But telling a Black Canadian, this is what we want you to say about Black issues. Well, no, it's not going to work. But to the matter at hand, he is absolutely bang on in terms of arguing for, well, I guess the classic icon, Sheila, of Lady Justice, holding the scales with the blindfold on. Now, the blindfold for the progressives, that's being replaced with X-ray glasses. There's a different benchmark and penalty if you're Aboriginal. They want different benchmarks and penalties if you're Black. Where does it end? When it comes to justice, that above all else should be colorblind. Otherwise, it's injustice.
Yeah, I mean, this probably could only have been Jamil Giovanni asking those questions, but he is right. It's a public safety issue to say we're going to decriminalize a 30-day supply of meth. What is a 30-day supply of meth, by the way? For me, it's 0, but for a chronic meth user, that could be a lot. Decarceration, now that's a new word, but dumping 1 in 3 criminals out of the jails, defunding the police by disqualifying, using the power of the public purse to disqualify police forces from federal grants. That's crazy. How? And by the way, what's the first community hit by that? The minority community that's crippled with crime. How does it make them any safer by letting the bad guys out? It just doesn't.
Sheila, it's just like at the Toronto District School Board when they had cops in schools and a radical fringe clamored about the systemic, policing, bullying, however they wanted to spin it. And yet lost in that rhetoric were the comments, particularly from Black mothers who said, I want the cop there. I want my child to go to a safe school. I don't want my child shaken down at recess for his lunch money and what have you. But no, this was, imperialism, colonialism, white supremacy to have cops in a school to maintain safety. They took them out of the school, and now some schools are battle zones. And look who is paying the price. That's unbelievable.
Yes. Okay, we've got an ad read, and then we've got a couple of ads, and then we'll get into the last part of the show. Next one is from our friends at Sticker Pack. Are you ready? Oh, it's not ready. So do we have a Rebel News ad then? Let's do that.
I'm in Brazil, so I'm using a VPN to get on the internet. What's a VPN? It stands for a virtual private network, and you get around these government firewalls. Suddenly, the president of Brazil banned his whole country from going on Twitter. It was a political censorship news. I've downloaded the VPN from a company called PIA VPN. We've teamed up with them at Rebel, and it's a great deal. I got on the internet really quickly, safely, and even I'm a bit of a technophobe. I managed to figure it out with 2 clicks. And here's the great news. If you go to piavpn.com/Rebel News, not only do you get a big discount, but they pay us a bit of a commission too. Everyone's a winner. Your freedom, your VPN, and a little bit of cash coming to support Rebel News. I'm using it myself to get around the censors in Brazil. You can use it too. That's piavpn.com/Rebel News.
Together we rise, unleash the power. Yeah. Unleash the power. Unleash the power. Yeah. Unleash the power.
Sheila, regarding that last ad, Vermilion, that's where that giant Easter egg is, right?
Vegreville. Vegreville is the giant Easter egg. Yeah.
Well, I knew it began with a V.
I bet you did. Okay, let's go into we got another chat, and then we'll go into Tamara angering up all the vegans. To which I say, eat however you want. Lord knows I do. Just don't make it into law. I don't think the federal government has a role in legislating what you can eat and using the threat of a pandemic to do it. So we've got a chat here from Ryerson Gary, $5. David, the TMU medical school is only for, quote, racialized and selected minorities. That is true. I'm okay with the name change. Who in the right mind wants to be associated with the disturbed elites in charge?
Ryerson Gary, thank you for that $5. Yes, if you ever wanted a meritocracy in any chosen field, I would say it's medicine. I don't want to be under the knife with a surgeon who got there not because of qualifications and acing his exams, but because he fit into a specific group that qualifies for DEI advancement. This is outrageous. And I ask you, whatever happened, no matter how politically correct you want to get, no matter how woke you want to get, whatever happened to the saying, the correct saying, that public safety trumps everything else? What happened to that? Because that's not the direction we're going. We are abridging public safety for woke DEI nonsense. And I hope I'm wrong, but someone's going to pay a price, and maybe with their life down the road. So it's despicable.
All right. I guess that final ad read, maybe not final, but the second ad read is available now. So are you ready to show your support in style? Sticker Mule has a fantastic offer just for you. For a limited time, you can grab free. Oh, you had me at free. Trump stickers. Yes, you heard that right. Free. Whether you want to decorate your laptop. Oh, I do. Or car or office space, these high quality durable stickers are perfect for making a statement. Just imagine how great they'll look, and they're super easy to apply. Here's how it works. Head over to stickerpack.com. That's PAC. Sticker Pack. Sign up and claim your free stickers and watch the fun unfold. Don't miss out on this exclusive offer. Stock is limited, so act fast. Spread the word. Let your voice be heard with Sticker Mule's awesome stickers. Once again, visit stickerpack.com today and grab your free Trump stickers before they're gone. All right, let's get into Tamara's her latest campaign on the vegan bill brought to us by our friend, notable, level-headed, normal person, Nathan Erskine Smith. Do we have a clip of her video? Or no?
quietly advancing through the Senate with potentially broad legal implications. It's called Bill C-293, and it's introduced first by Liberal MP Nate Ersin Smith in 2022. He's known for his vegan advocacy, and the bill has passed its third reading under the Liberal NDP Fringe Minority Coalition government and is now headed to the Senate to receive royal assent to become legislated law in Canada. The Senate is the last stop for this bill. It's Canadians' only hope to stop this thing in its tracks, and I need your help to do so. killtheveganbill.com. At that website, you can sign our petition, and you can also send a form email to various senators and Nate Ersin Smith himself, telling them to kill the vegan bill. This legislation, named the Pandemic Prevention and Preparedness Act, while it was introduced by a vegan whose previous attempts to force others into alternative protein consumption have not been fruitful, is broader in scope than just targeting meat producers and pushing alternative proteins like Z-bugs down Canadians' throats. This bill will grant the federal health minister power to pick a national pandemic prevention and preparedness coordinator from among the officials of the Public Health Agency of Canada, whose job it will be to coordinate activities under the Pandemic Prevention and Preparedness Plan that emphasizes alternative proteins while placing blame for antimicrobial resistance squarely on the animal agriculture's industry's shoulders. The language is ambiguous, and various organizations like the Canadian Cattle Association, the Canadian Federation of Agriculture, the Canadian Pork Council, Chicken Farmers of Canada, and the National Cattle Feeders Association have raised significant concerns about this bill. The Public Health Agency of Canada already has surveillance systems in place to monitor and respond to foodborne bacteria from farm to table. The bill's language regulating commercial activities that can contribute to pandemic risk, including industrial animal agriculture, while promoting commercial activities that can help reduce pandemic risk, including the production of alternative proteins, and phasing out commercial activities that disproportionately contribute to pandemic risk, including activities involving high-risk species, is simply more government overreach under the guise of health promotion. Nate Ersin Smith is a lifelong vegetarian turned vegan who doesn't want you to think he's a radical anti-meat activist, as coined in this now scrubbed Now Magazine article from 2017. He wrote that op-ed after his activist C-246 bill, which he lauded as an animal protection bill, and it was defeated ultimately in the House of Commons. This article starts off by saying that Nate has been a vegetarian all of his life, which he inherited from his mother. And he thinks that not eating meat will protect the environment and somehow improve health outcomes. I would argue the opposite. That's why he went full-fledged vegan and is raising his family that way too. Perhaps his dietary choices and likely deficiencies in essential nutrients and vitamins are why he became so unhinged in the House of Commons earlier this week. Look at this.
Well, you know what? Great report by Tamara Ugolini, Sheila. And she nailed it. Basically, that's really the unspoken strategy when it comes to the war on the farmer. The radical left wants to replace beef with crickets because they feel that cow flatulence is contributing to global warming. This is why there was a war on the car in terms of a fossil fuel burning car. The progressives want to replace fossil fuel burning cars with EVs. Again, what's coming out of the tailpipe is contributing to climate change and global warming, or however they're calling it right now. Well, no, we have to fight against this. It's nonsense. It's not based on any science whatsoever. And good for Tamara Ugolini for spelling it out. And a special thank you to Tamara Ugolini for those clips with all those maggots and other creepy crawlies writhing around. I was feeling a little peckish and I was going to cheat on my diet, but I'm back on course.
Yes. So you can eat however you want. And I am not a doctor, but I do know a lot about nutrition for my own personal reasons. And I will tell you that there are 7 essential nutrients that you can only get from animal sources. Now, if you have to supplement them as a vegan, are you truly a vegan? Because They got to come from somewhere. And guess what? They're going to come from animals. So B12, creatine, carnosine, D3, DHA, heme, iron, and taurine. Most of these involve the function of your brain. Deficiencies in them will cause brain fog, brain atrophy, depression. They also are essential in maintaining muscle mass. So there's a reason why the powers that be don't want you to eat animals, right? Like they want your brain and your body to be weak and out of control, like Nathan Erskine Smith. But eat however you want. I don't want the government telling me that animal agriculture will be responsible for the next pandemic while telling us to eat crickets when, remember we did that story when the government was giving out a bunch of grants to that cricket factory? And the big concern was, if the crickets get out, it's going to cause a parasitic pandemic in the farms around, and that these crickets carry parasites that can affect human beings. So let's not kid ourselves. The alternative protein sources that they want to force us into, crickets and soy, they're not good for you either. Yeah. And could actually, they themselves, be responsible for the next catastrophic pandemic.
And Sheila, I got to tell you, next time you're in town, we should plan another little day trip. This time, not to a nudist colony, but to the cricket farm near London, Ontario. You will be shocked by how big this is. It's, to use a Star Trekian reference, it's like a Borg cube in the middle of nowhere with literally billions and billions of crickets. By the way, heavily taxpayer funded. And right now, the storyline is it's only for pet food. I'm sorry, no one invests in a plant like that just for Fido and Kitty to have some bug-enriched food. I know what's coming down the pike. And it's the other point I want to make too, Sheila, when the likes of Klaus Schwab and Al Gore, when they give up their stretch limo and their private jet for, an e-bike, and when they give up their T-bone steak for a cricket sandwich, then maybe, just maybe, I might consider getting on board, but I don't have to worry about that because the elites, that's not for them. It's do as I say, not as I do.
Right. And do you want to be like Nathan Erskine Smith? Are you going to take him as the model of health and wellness and sanity? Are you? Do you want to do that? Do you want the government to have the ability to walk in and close an abattoir because they say it could be dangerous to the creation of the next pandemic without ever actually saying, like, there's no recourse? It's undefined. All the language in that bill is undefined. And guess what happens once they start closing the abattoirs? What do you think that does to the cost of meat? Maybe let's say they don't close them all. Or let's just say they close half or even 1 in 3. What does that does to the cost of meat for the rest of us? All of a sudden, they don't have to close them all to price you out of the healthy protein source and put you in an untenable position of choosing a protein source that's bad for you or turning into Nathan Erskine Smith.
Oh, and Sheila, it's a double-edged sword because, as you mentioned, when they close those slaughterhouses, what happens to those jobs? Where do those people go?
Or there's farmers,
Yeah, I mean, are they going to get a new job in the, what are they calling it now, I suppose, the insect economy? No.
Yeah.
So this is just bad news all the way around it. And thank goodness for the Agriculture Association for fighting back against this. I am shocked. Bill C-293, Sheila, I think this is the most overlooked, underreported bill of this year. I really do that because the way it's being sold and what it really means are two divergent things.
Right. This is the thing they latched onto. Animal agriculture might be the cause of the next pandemic and not, Chinese espionage. And the solution is alternative protein sources, the crickets that carry parasites. Just forget all of that though. So I'm really glad that Tamara took this on. It's killtheveganbill.com. That's the website if you want to sign that petition and share it around. Do we want to do a final ad break and then just go into foreign interference stuff?
Yes,
Olivia?
especially Marco Mendicino.
Okay, so we'll just jump right into it. First thing, and then we'll do Marco Mendicino accidentally telling the truth. I was like, did I hear that right? I pulled the transcript. I definitely did hear it right. Okay, so first story. RCMP demands data on ex-Mountie accused of Chinese spy ties. This story is wild, especially in the context of the Foreign Interference Commission, because we know they just said it in passing like a week ago that there are two, I would call them extrajudicial kidnappings, but I believe the term they used was forcible repatriation of two ethnically Chinese dissidents who were Canadian citizens. They were forced back to China by Chinese spies, and I'm not sure we know what happened to them. It sounds like this Mountie might have been in that sort of vein of being the guy who strong arms the local dissidents. So the RCMP believes William Maker, maybe, an ex-Mountie, targeted wealthy Vancouver real estate magnate on behalf of Beijing, alleging that he helped the Chinese Ministry of Public Security, that's their spy agency, to target and silence dissidents. Their public security department is the spy agency, not the public safety department that was overseen by Bill Blair, who just shuffled around in slippers for 3 years, apparently. So he faces potential reprimand for suspicious activities with Chinese agents after the RCMP received 78 judicial authorizations. Those are warrants for his banking, phone, and social media records on alleged foreign interference. The Globe and Mail obtained 71 unsealed authorizations from the Montreal courthouse. 7 more are forthcoming, including allegations that have not been tested at court. A 52-page affidavit by RCMP officer Gabrielle Lemaire articulating a request for Maker's financial information, his current and former passports, passport applications, phone records, emails, communications from LinkedIn and WhatsApp. He continues to have ongoing interactions with current and former law enforcement and private security investigation personnel over social media. They obtained collaborations with Kenneth Marsh, another former RCMP officer. This is crazy. So it's just, this is so shocking that this guy's a former cop. And what's concerning about this stuff is he's communicating with current police. And so that might make their communications compromised.
Sheila, I kind of feel like a Floridian, you encounter Hurricane Helene, and then just when you're catching your breath, along comes Milton. I mean, when does this end, in terms of the scandals? And I got to tell you,
October 2025, I think.
Well, you know what? If you think Pierre Poilievre is going to come in and in one term clean this up, you're dreaming in technicolor.
We're going to have a full term of just finding where the scandals are. We have to find where the bodies are hidden first before we can even fix it.
The Conservatives have about maybe, I don't know, a generation of work ahead of them in terms of cleaning up this mess that Trudeau has done in less than a decade. I just feel shellacked, bombarded. It just never ends.
Yeah, the Liberals who are on their way out the door might accidentally be telling the truth. So let's go to Marco Mendicino, who was the public safety minister after the semi-retired public safety minister, Bill Blair. And Bill Blair said, I never saw the warrant regarding allegedly Michael Chan for 54 days on my desk. And so they thought, okay, well, let's compare it to the next public safety minister. What is general practice? How long does it take to get these CSIS warrants signed? And Marco Mendicino is testifying that, usually bickety bam, we sign them right away because sometimes it affects the policing operations, which is true. He almost seemed normal until you remember he was like, let's crush the convoy protesters with tanks. Like, never let that leave your mind when thinking about Marco Mendicino. So he is being questioned by this young lawyer for the Conservative Party of Canada. Nando DeLuca wasn't there this week, which made, this kid's doing great work, but I just like watching Nando DeLuca. But he asks Mendicino, like, how do we let people know, like, what's the process here about foreign interference and letting the targets know, and how do we deal with that? And just pay close attention to what he says about party leaders.
So you've spoken a bit about this already, but it would be correct to say that threat reduction measures include the ability for CSIS to notify members of parliament of issues concerning national security that are relevant to those members of parliament and that may necessitate action?
I do, and just let me briefly expand. The threat reduction measures that I authorized were put into place to provide a more secure environment so that CSIS could share information about what those threats were vis-a-vis the parliamentarians in question. And over time, I do think that the protocols that will be developed now that Bill C-70 has become law around sharing of information, the procedures around declassifying information can all be better deployed in the context of threat reduction measures as a way of preventing and mitigating against any threats to parliamentarians and foreign interference.
And so that same rule or that same ability would also apply to members of parliament who are leaders of a political party, correct?
For sure.
So just to be clear, a leader of a political party could receive a threat reduction measure briefing if CSIS believe that there are issues concerning national security that are relevant to that leader and that may necessitate action, correct?
Subject to appropriate screening. And we've talked in the past about the need to ensure that before we share highly classified and sensitive information, that the individuals that are part of that dialogue are vetted according to the protocols that have been put in place. And I don't think we can gloss over that fact. So yes, you're right. If you are the leader of a political party and you have become a threat, I beg your pardon, you've become a target of a threat to foreign interference, then there should be a protocol in place to share information, but that may very well be subject to the appropriate screening of that individual.
No, Marco Pinocchio. I mean Mendicino, I beg your pardon. You had it right the first time. For once in your life, you have told the truth. If you are the leader of a political party and you have become a threat, a threat to so many, so many of the fringe minority of unacceptable views. Unbelievable, Sheila, he didn't collapse in convulsions for his body putting up with the truth coming out instead of a lie. I mean, Marco Mendicino, I am telling you folks, this guy is such a liar. He would spit in your face and he would tell you it's raining, okay? That's Marco Mendicino. So, boy, is that not perverse irony, Sheila, that he had it right for a change and truthful the first time.
Yeah, what a slippery eel that dude is. But yeah, it accidentally snuck out, like he forgot that you have to maintain that Justin Trudeau is just an innocent bystander in all of this instead of an active participant when a party leader becomes a threat to foreign interference or a threat of foreign interference. And he's like, oh, pardon me. No, you are not pardoned, Marco. I think, Olivia, we're 11 minutes past the top of the hour. I have to get back to Bill Blair having all of his little Biden moments today. I think I'm going to post his cross-examination in full. So if you're following me on X, if you're not, it's at Sheila Gunn Reid. I'm posting all the relevant clips there of the Foreign Interference Commission. Today's a big day. Pascal Saint-Onge and Bill Blair testifying today. But I think I got to get back at her. And if we don't have any chats, I will get to it. And David, you can wrap the show.
Well, there you go, Sheila. Thanks so much, as always. And thank you to the folks that tuned in. And a special thank you for those who made a donation. We greatly appreciate it. We're not part of Justin Trudeau's lapdog welfare list when it comes to the corporate mainstream media. Well, this is very unprofessional. I should have found out this before the show. We're not here on Monday. We're shutting down for Thanksgiving, meaning we're going to eat turkey and roast beef and ham and all that, not bugs. So I don't know, Olivia, Efren, do we have a live stream on Tuesday? We do. There you go.
Okay,
should have
that's
found that
news
out.
to me.
So
Surprise,
Sheila, the She-Devil Gun Reed, and myself will be back here on Tuesday. Hey, folks, have a wonderful Thanksgiving. And, put down the devices, spend time with your family, your loved ones, your friends. We'll be back here on Tuesday. And as always, stay safe and stay sane.
And while the attacks of that day haunt us still, we cannot blame the chaos on our streets on some foreign problem. This hate crime targeting our Jewish people and our countless other peoples was out of control before then. And by the way, there have been wars in the Middle East for decades. They didn't spill onto our streets in the 1967 war, in the War of Yom Kippur, the two intifadas, the Hezbollah-Israel war of 2006. We didn't have fire bombings of synagogues in Canada during those conflicts. We didn't have bullets flying through the window of children's schools during those conflicts. We didn't have bricks throwing through the windows of the Pride of Israel during those conflicts. What has changed? What has changed is we have a prime minister with a radical and divisive ideology that turns Canadian against Canadian. He has broken our borders. He's allowed repeat violent criminals to run free in our streets. He's allowed ISIS terrorists to come in through our immigration system, even after they were videotaped, cutting up human bodies in the Middle East as part of the ISIS organization. They come into Canada and he gives them citizenship in this country where they plot to carry out new terrorist attacks. Justin Trudeau is not worth the cost, crime, chaos, and he's not worth the risk of terrorism.